Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing something a bit different. I'm going to go through 3 examples of co-working spaces I've designed and built and currently are operating around Australia in different markets to help demonstrate there's no one-size-fits-all situation with your co-working business. You know, one's targeting tech companies and was a government initiative. Another was a completely corporate enterprise focus operation. And another was within an airport business park, and all different sizes, different money, amount of capital spent, different customer types and everything. So I'll go through each of those and explain my thinking behind them. I'll even integrate, edit in some shots of the spaces, some websites if you'd like to go check them out because it's running right now. And I'll even go through the wonky floor plans for each of them, which I've sketched here, but I'll go into more detail to show you how sometimes you don't get the best perfect floor plan to work with and you need to make some design considerations for your customer journey and how you operate it. Okay, so why don't we just dive in. The first one's called the Quantum Terminal. I'll just write TQT here. And this one was in Sydney. And this was an initiative with the New South Wales government to try and turn Sydney into the Silicon Valley of quantum computing and AI computer startups and companies, right? And this one was 3,500 square meters. What's that in square feet? So 3,500 times 10.76. It's loosely, call it 38,000 square feet, right? Give or take. And sounds like a lot of space for a government initiative, right? Well, I've run out of space here, but I'll put in total, we only spent about $2 million on the CapEx AU, right? Which doesn't sound like a lot. And we had to be very thoughtful in how we spent that money. So maybe what I'll do is the floor plan types down here. I'm going to be all over the place for this video, so please follow me. I've sketched some more plans here. So this is the TQT plan, because it'll help me explain what's going on here, right? Rather than just do my normal numbers. So here's level 1, level 2, and level 3. And the total, we'll stick to square meter metrics just for simplicity, but you can easily convert it at home. It's 3,500 square meters, or what did I put here again? 38,000 square feet. So you get the quantum of the space. And the floor plans were like this Pac-Man thing. And funnily enough, this was in a train station, in Central Station in Sydney, if you want to Google that. So it wasn't in a big commercial real estate building. There's some sizable assets there. It was a heritage asset, which is probably worth noting, and I'll get to that because you have to build and consider for those buildings because you're not allowed to demolish or do too much to it. So we had to work with these wonky floor plates, and it was shared with, the New South Wales Police and all these different government institutions. We had to be really careful with security and wayfinding. And within these wonky floor plans, each of them wasn't like over a they're much bigger than the 3,500 square meters in total. But what ended up happening is in level 1, we got like this bottom section here. Level 2, we got like this top section here. And level 3, we got this middle section. So the total of those 3 added together was your 38,000 square feet. And the entrance to each of those, you had different entrance points, right? So we had to scatter the operation over 3 floors. It wasn't ideal, but again, this was a government initiative to really give back to the city. The way we were able to make it work for only $2 million was level 1 and level 2. We repurposed existing tenancies. So the government had a bunch of workstations, a bunch of offices already there that they used to use for one of their previous tenants. And it was in pretty good condition, pretty good like little work pods. So we pretty much reused all of that on level 1 and level 2. And we only spent like maybe, $200 a square meter on carpet, fixing the ceilings, maybe doing up a couple of the rooms to turn into meeting rooms there. However, on level 3, that's where we spent all the money, right? We spent most of the money on level 3 to turn it into this really cool event space area. And I can scroll back up because that helps you explain the different 3 floors to here, because maybe what I'll do is I'll use this smaller floor plan to help explain what went on. So we'll say level 3 for TQT, because then I can talk about the customer type and the desk density and the key amenities as well in this table. The reason we did that was because when you think about this type of co-working space, where the customer type here is tech companies and startups, they honestly don't really care too much about the desk or the office they get. They want to be part of a community, right? So this level 3 area here, which we got, was about close to 900 square meters, so 10,000 square feet, yeah? And we turned it into this really cool, big multi-purpose event space to host high headcount events, because there was nothing like that in the area. But when it wasn't being used, it would shift into this communal area. People could just kind of go up and walk and hang around and just work. And I'll edit in some, and I probably already have, but some images of the space. And I think I'll see if I can dig up a time-lapse video I took of the space being converted, because it was beautiful, man. It was like, the floor itself was, the story behind it was a conductor's studio. It was like literally back in the day where a conductor would stand in the middle because it was acoustically sound and it could yell to everyone around the room when to change tracks. So it was a big open space. So it was a design challenge to make it a big multi-purpose event space and modular, because it was heritage, so we couldn't do too much to the building. And by that I mean, because it's a heritage asset, it's a protected asset, you can't knock down walls and stuff. And just to share, I think I've saved this picture, so I'll put it. I took a picture of this. Someone, like, once upon a time graffitied this train on it, which I thought was really cool. So a gift which I did when we actually delivered this project is I had that framed and I gave it to the client, because I was like, hey, we had to paint over this and fix it and stuff like that. But just always remember where your roots and where you came from. So that floor was incredible because we actually generated a lot of income, surprisingly, which we didn't forecast for events, because there were no event spaces like that within that area that could have, 100 plus people in there, and then also be designed in a way where when the event wasn't being held, people could spill out and hang out in lounge rooms. It was almost perfect for like a tech conference, and then afterwards everyone can kind of just break out and work or hang out or do their own thing, because there were also meeting rooms there. So we generated quite a lot of income from that. And because the theme was around the quantum computing tech thing, because we went for a niche angle, we just attracted so much even corporate interest, companies that were interested in quantum computing or AI and that kind of stuff, even cryptocurrencies coming and booking that space. So that's why I think niche approaches are quite good. So the desk density actually, and I've put desk density in here because I know I talk about desk densities a lot. For this one, 3,500. We didn't really have that many desks, to be honest. Yeah, it was like a, you know how I normally talk about around a 7 square meter, 7 times 10 point. So normally I talk about a 7 square meter or a 71 square feet density, workstation density, when you deal with commercially viable co-working floor plans, and it's different for every market, right? It can go denser, it can go higher. This one ended up being closer to like 12 square meters, right? Or 129 square feet per workstation. So when you actually divide that by 3,500, the total area of square meters by the 12. Yeah, we even had less actually. That just spat out 291 workstations, but I think we only had 250 in the end for this one. So a huge demonstration of, because this was a government initiative, it was, I'll actually even put another row here called profit target, because the goal of it was to give back to the New South Wales government and feed into this tech incubator ecosystem they were trying to build. It wasn't really designed to make a ton of profit and a ton of money. So the profit target here was literally break even, which is why we were able to do so little desks. And when even we sold it, we subsidized those desks. So whatever was market rate in that area, we discounted it by like another $100. Not to be cheap enough to piss off all the other competitors in the area going, you can't just give it away, but cheap enough to help the small startups and stuff grab a desk here, right? And again, the reality is when they bought the desk, they spent all their time in level 3, because when there wasn't an event up there, it was really cool to work from. I worked from there heaps. So the key amenity on that, to wrap up that example, was level 3. It was the multi-purpose event space. And I think that's important because depending on what you're looking at, And I've had some really intelligent, smart people reach out since I've been doing these videos from Texas, Canada, India, even Africa, wanting to do their own co-working situation. A couple of them are government or local city initiatives. So food for thought, think about this big multi-purpose area and how you can leverage that and how it can be used when it's not being booked and generating income. So that's the quantum terminal, right? Very proud of that one. That was one of the first ones that I did in my capacity at JLL. And I was very proud because it was a little nod to my startup roots, because I don't know if you follow my startup channel, but before I got into commercial co-working, I turned restaurants into co-working spaces as a startup called Two Space. Which I always smile when I think about, because that was my first exposure to co-working almost 10 years ago. So the second site, I'm going to go a bit backwards here. I'm going to call the loft, and this is Melbourne, right? And this is this floor plan here. I'll save the last one. I'll save the last one for the thing. I was meant to do it in a different order, but I think this one's important. This size was 3,400 square meters. It was also across 3 floors, but the capex for this one, 3,500 times, call it 1,800. We spent about 6.5 million, right? So it was about 1,800 a square meter. But again, we built this 3-4 years ago, this particular one, right? So I think build costs today have escalated significantly because of, supply chains, inflation, all that kind of stuff. So building that same site would probably be closer to 8 or 9 million right now. The customer type here were corporates. And I'll edit in the video so you can kind of see the look and feel of it. It was very themed for the owner, because this was owned by the owner of this building, and the building itself was 20,000 square meters. Every now and then I'll do a square foot conversion, because I think it's important, because I don't want you to think I'm saying 20,000 square meters and you'd be like, oh, it's just a small building, because you're thinking in square feet. 215,000 square feet. And the whole point of this co-working space was the landlord realized, even to sign long-term leases on all the other floors, all of those tenants at the start were asking for co-working or flex as well, because they didn't understand their office strategy and they needed some comfort on taking the space upstairs to flex into something else. So that's how that conversation started, right? And this desk density was a 6.5. There were a lot of desks in here. So, there were close to 500 desks in this operation, split into private offices and open plan. But I'd say most of it was in offices. So if I times it by 70, I'd say about 400 of these were in private offices, and the rest were in open plan. And the open plan were more in the floor plan to help stuff breathe, because we did like the customers who brought the private offices, especially corporates, have access to open plans, because sometimes they would have customers in town or guests or partners, and they just wanted to give them a bunch of open plan desks while they're in town, right? Profit target for this one was to make a lot of money, right? So there was a market rate. They actually wanted to make 15% on top of what their market rate equivalent was for that site, to offset the risk of running a business, like a flex operation here. Because we did this as a partnership, meaning I didn't take a lease over this space. It was under a management agreement, meaning the owner paid for the fit out and the capital. I run the space like a hotel, in the sense like a hotel management agreement, meaning I'm responsible for the staff, the systems, the budgets, and whatever margin is made, we took a revenue share, profit share out of it, right? So the owner had a bit of risk, because if it's empty, because COVID 3.0 or whatever, they were paying for everything, right? But happy to say, it's humming very well. And very proud of the on-site team of that site. Very cool family and people, like not physical family, but a work family, right? The key amenities for this one were driven by what the tenants in the building wanted. So if you're doing a co-working space in a big building, whichever market you're in, and there's other tenants in the asset, just understand what type of industries they are. And don't be afraid to survey them. Be like, hey, what kind of amenities do you want? I'm going to be opening this business downstairs, or I'm thinking of what kind of bookable spaces do you not have in your space that you want, that you would pay me for using? and you might get certain size board. So we got certain size meeting spaces. We got a certain sized private event space so they could host their confidential information. Funnily enough, also, we wanted to originally put a cafe that would lose money but enhance the experience into the space. But we didn't, because when we spoke to the owner, he was putting this really cool rooftop restaurant and cafe upstairs. So suddenly we were like, okay, how about we don't put one in our space? We send our members upstairs, but you give them some sort of sweet deal. Owner wins because that retailer upstairs gets more foot traffic, more business. We win because we get to give our members a cool deal. And imagine being able to go into co-working space and then having this really cool rooftop kind of at your disposal, right? Oh yeah, I've got a client in town, I'll take you up to the rooftop, reservation, staff there knows me because we're part of the community, right? And if I go to the floor plan here, it's this one. Very funny, even though it's called the loft, I think it's level 1, 2 and 3. So not exactly the highest points of the building, even though it's like a 24 asset, right? But that's what they wanted to pick. This part here is kind of like the facilities, the lift entrance where you enter. And the floor plan was nice, okay? Not gonna lie. Like this is one of the better floor plans because it's nice and square, albeit this one actually had like pokey pillars every now and then on each floor. So even though the outline of the floor plan looks pretty dope, when you have these big columns to build around and design around that poke into offices or just sit in a space, it kind of gets a bit awkward. And this comes back again to the density calculations that I talk about, whether it's 6.5, 7, always go more conservative, because when you do an actual test fit within your plan, because of columns, because of weird angles in the floors, you'll realize you're going to fit less desks than you thought, right? So that calculator is just a pre-FISO rule of thumb industry-wise. Now, in terms of how it worked, because this was a commercial operation, meaning owner wants money and you want to make margin, I'll even start before I go on level 1. Level 2 and 3, like pretty much the facade, because we had natural light coming from all of them, were private offices to optimize them so that we could sell those offices really well. The entrance, obviously, for both floors, you'd have a small like lounge welcome area. But because level 2 and 3 were reserved for mostly the larger clientele, customers that just wanted to keep to themselves and take care of themselves, they didn't really need a concierge presence up there. They just needed a bit of a kitchenette on each of those floors. And then like in these kind of pokey areas here, we'd put open plan desks to, again, help break the floor plan up, right? The good thing about doing offices around the facade when it comes to natural light is because it's glass, even if you go, floor to ceiling, the natural light comes through, so it still goes into the floor plan, even if it's slightly diffused. And even if you're trying to save money and you only do glass from halfway up and the bottom is not glass, it's a cheaper material because no one really needs to see your feet, right? You can still get natural light coming in. So 2 and 3 were pretty commercial, high density floors. And actually we had the larger offices on level 3. Meaning, 1 and 2 were like 4-person to 12-person offices. You'd even have a couple of small 2Ps. Up here, we had a couple of 25Ps, 20 to 25 person size offices, just because we felt confident that we would find the demand there. I always say be careful of the larger offices because they're great when they're full and making money, but imagine if you had 2 or 3 of those customers leave sequentially within the same year, and then you're struggling to fill it or backfill it because for whatever reason the interest isn't there at that point in time. That's going to be a huge hit, huge hit in your P&L, which is why I'm like the larger ones, just be confident that you can fill them and not too many, right? Level 1, we thoughtfully designed, so rather than having just this small circle here that I put here for like the concierge, we had the concierge and lounge area here much more generous on level 1 because that was the key amenity floor where you come to. And then we'd have offices wrapped around here and here, but then this area down here were like meeting rooms and event space. And we'd have a much more communal kitchenette there where we'd host events. The whole idea was if you're a first-time customer or if you're a smaller customer coming here for event stuff, you get an office or a space on level 1. Because then you'd literally come out of your office and you'd be greeted by people chilling at the kitchenette, staff blah, blah, blah. So you can kind of see also from an operational perspective, you always want to stack all of the serviceability stuff on one floor because then your full-time staff have an easier time servicing them. We had no stairs interconnecting all the floors, which might surprise some of you. But the reality is it was a necessity for us. We budgeted for stairs originally, but then when things started getting more expensive to build, we had to cut it out because stairs, if you don't have it pre-built into the floors and everything, if it's not part of a new development, they could send you back like $500,000 in certain markets, which we didn't have back then, even though we thought because the build was getting more expensive. Which kind of was a bummer because we would have had not interconnecting stairs throughout the whole floors. It would have kind of gone from level 1 to 2. But it was fine because this customer demographic was very enterprise corporate focused. It worked in our favor. They liked being on their own floor and not having people kind of poke in and out unless they had a tenancy within that space. So let me scroll back up here. I just had a heart attack because I thought I wasn't recording like on the iPad. You have no idea how many times I've done that because I'm very tired because my son Logan, who just turned 9 months old, best thing that's ever happened to me, but his sleep is touch and go right now. I'm very tired. What was I saying, ladies and gentlemen? I think that's everything I wanted to say about the loft. So let's go on to door number 3. This one's called Collab, and this one's in Canberra. And I can't wait for this one to be humming. Because career milestone for this one goes live this month, right? My day job, JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, the commercial real estate Fortune 200 company, that whole office in Canberra, the headquarters, is actually going to take half this space because they need a home for a whole year before their new office is ready. So how cool is that, right? To have my whole day job office live and breathe and use the flex spaces that I set up. I'm hoping we give them such a good experience they all turn into little ambassadors that talk about it. And anyway, I digress. Collab, this one was around 1,400 square meters. And it's important to touch on all the deals I'm doing moving forward aren't these big 3,400, 3,500 square meter sites. They are around the 1,400 square meter size. I might push it to 2,000 depending on the building and the market. But I think 1,400, 1,500 is a very nice, appetizingly small business that you will have no problems filling if you do it right. Like, you forecast for 85% occupancy in your fee zones like we do in these videos, but I'm confident you'll hit 100. And you'll be able to hold that 100 probably 6 months of the year, which means annually you should probably only forecast for 90%. But hey, I'd rather have a 90% 1,400 square meter site than a 70% 3,000 square meter site. Right? Because those costs start piling up and those vacancies just make your space feel empty and soulless. Whereas if you've got a buzzing sized one like that, oh, so much fun, right? So because the owner of this particular one, and here's a picture of me and the owner like having a good time because we got some press for this particular one, for this project, which was cool. Really cared about this space. We actually ended up spending quite a bit on it because they're proud of it, right? I'm going to say 4 million. I don't think it got up to there, but actually if you include audiovisual and all that kind of stuff, it'd probably go up. So that's a pretty healthy dollar per square meter, right? And I think there's some look and feel imagery I can edit in. It's going to look really nice. And the floor plan is this one, which I'll go to shortly. But the customer type here was like a mixture of government, like corporate again, but not your normal corporates. It was like Deloitte and all these big 4 consultancy firms that had huge offices within this district because this was within a business park, like almost like a Google campus near the Canberra airport. Very cool. So they had their own amenities and experiences and everything as well surrounding where we were going to put the co-working space, which was important for us to understand because then our community manager would be working with their wider precinct community manager and smooshing budgets together. Smooshing is a gross word. I don't know why I used that. To do really cool things in the co-working space and outside. Like they literally have a barbecue pit and a theater for plays and stuff like that, literally outside our co-working space, which you can look from the window, which is so cool, and a soccer field and everything like that. The desk density for this one, because it was smaller, so once you get smaller to the 1400, the only offset is you can fit in less desks, was around, I think, 7.25. So what is that? So 1400 divided by 7.25. Yeah, so we only had, I'd say, 185 desks. And of that, probably 150 in private office and the others in open plan. And the key amenity, wow. The arrival lounge is so beautiful. Like, I'm gonna be driving up to Canberra, down to Canberra. I'm horrible when it comes to directional geography. If my wife was here, she'd be flicking my ear right now, because I always say, oh, I'm going up or going down colloquially, but she's like, no, it's down. You're going down, you're not going up. Anyway, I'm going some direction there just to work from the communal area. And I'll kind of show you on a plan what that looks like. But also, we have a media room here, which, as you know, if you watch this channel, I push a lot, like podcast studio, where you can also film it. So imagine if I was a customer of this space. You know how I do these videos in my garage, which right now is pretty tough in Sydney because it's hot and I'm sweating right now. Like, I need to have a shower after this. Imagine if I could do this in my co-working space, because they'd have a room properly set up for this stuff. That would be really cool, right? So I wouldn't have to do it in the garage. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see what the actual setup looks like, because like it might look pretty cool now because I've faced it at the wall. I painted blue because this is also my home gym, and I put a nice desk here, one of my old desks. But there's literally my car right on the other side of that camera. There's all this baby crap here, some gym equipment. Oh, I need to dust this thing for cobwebs. But again, I'm digressing. It's because I'm tired, everyone. That's probably why I'm a bit more chatty than usual, so apologies. But the profit target while I'm on this table here, yeah, it was to make money, but the owner was also generous. So if you think about it almost as a Richter scale of, we don't need margin, like the Quantum Terminal Sydney one I just said. So go nuts on the community building, everything, to all the way to the loft, which is make as much money as possible. They were kind of like, I'd say, not dead in the middle, but a bit here, because what that allowed us to do was be a bit more generous on the amenity area, right? Give back to it. And actually, while I'm on that, before I go to the floor plan to explain it, I think it's worth kind of going down here for a second to explain to you why I've got this here. If you think about your floor plan in terms of 100%, so 100% of your floor plan, if you're going, rule of thumb, just so you can think about it, if you want to make money out of your co-working business and you're dealing with, let's say, a 1,500 to 2,000 square meter space, you can automatically, before you think about densities and all that crap, you can visualize, I'd say 60% of that 100% is going to be desks. I know that sounds crazy, but it is. And that's a mixture of private offices, open plan. Meeting rooms, maybe 5%. So this is your bookable spaces, even the event space goes into this. Concierge lounge, I'll get to that, because the circulation and buffer, surprisingly, is 20%. So it's almost like 20% of your floor plan, whatever square meter or square footage area you're given, is gone. Like, because this is like circulation, so literally the areas in between the offices, the lounges where people can kind of walk and navigate their customer journey, that needs space, right? That you carpet or whatever floor you put. And the buffer is more like door swing clearances. So whenever you build an office, you need to be generous with the space around it, so when you open it doesn't hit something, right? So that's 20% of the space gone. So if you've got 60 desks, 60% to desks, 5% to meeting room, 65, 85%, you've got 15% left. It's probably going to be something like 5% for your concierge lounge area, and then 15% of your key amenities. And that's kind of why like this 15% is so important. Hang on, 10%. Tired, everyone. 60, so yeah, 10%. That 10% of your key amenities is so important because you don't get a lot of space for it. So what are you going to do with it? What kind of cool stuff could you do with it? Sometimes you could just blend the concierge lounge and the key amenities so you get a generous 15% area to make this really awesome welcome area experience. You don't have to put specific products. But again, if you think a media room, a golf simulator, hell, I've seen co-working spaces that have enough space, they put in like a little squash court or basketball court. Not saying you need to do that. What is it? Right, what are you going to do? So if I scroll here real quick, here's the collab space. This is it's ground floor level 1. And the entrance is here. So level 1, you could probably already guess, like as usual, wrap your facade with private offices. Obviously, it's not going to be like that. Like there's a bit more thought behind it, but just conceptually, let's just think about this is where the money is being made. And I'm from memory. We'll do this here while I remember it. There's stairs that kind of connect. So we had to be thoughtful because earlier when I was saying we had a big corporate client, my company coming to take half the space, because it was for a year and the stairs came out, we almost had to like put a temporary security clearance built in so that when they would take all of this space, it would be private. You know, in the middle, they may have some open plan desks and we had some meeting rooms and stuff like that. So it'd almost be treated like their own tenancy because they just needed that privacy, right? Downstairs, it was almost like this whole side here, this beautiful area here was like a mixture of like lounge, open plan desks, because the window in this area, you'd look down and there'd be this beautiful like theater here where like you'd see people doing Shakespeare and stuff like that. It's so cool. And then when that's not being used for theater, they'd like cook s'mores or marshmallows and stuff when it's cold. And then literally, if you look further there was like a soccer field there for like local tenants and stuff to play. So really cool, right? And the same for level 1. So that line of sight you could kind of see. And then this area here, we deliberately had the concierge, a floating concierge facing here because we opened up this entire space to be open so that this concierge could also act as a ground floor lobby concierge because that particular building wasn't large enough to have its own permanent property manager concierge. So we were like, hey, why don't we redesign the ground floor area so we could do that for you as well, for the owner, right? We had some offices here because we still needed to rentalize some of the space, but then this area here turned into kind of like a meeting room section and a little event room here from memory. But the whole point is as soon as you enter this space, it's almost like you're transported not into like this very dense co-working operation. It's like you go, wow, and then you can just sit down and work somewhere and then you see other people from the precinct working. Yeah, and that was circa 1,400 square meters. So I'll stop there. And I think the whole point of this video, again, is just to help demonstrate like the spectrum, like, you know, amenity to dollars. And you can kind of land different areas there depending on what your customer is and your goal is. So I'm going to keep doing feasibility videos and maybe I'll do the next couple of ones in different markets like I've been talking about, but I might not do your general FISO for a high commercially savvy co-working space. The next one might have a bit more amenity stuff thrown in there because I'll create a scenario of what the market demands or what the customers want. Okay. And if you found this video helpful, please like it because I know a lot of you enjoy these and watch them. A little bit of engagement goes a long way just to support the channel. Not that I get paid or anything to put the content out there, but it also just lets me know that it's useful, so I keep doing it. Otherwise, I'd much rather spend time with my son right now, watching him drool everywhere. So, yeah, good luck. You got this, and please reach out to me, whether it's in the comments or in the link in the description for a direct consult or to access some of the free materials I recently published. So I'll speak to you again soon.